Hello everybody, my name is China. Welcome back to my channel. I'm coming back to y'all with a brand new video today. Okay.
Young, wild, thick and proud. She don't really need no man, but she keep a few, 1 or 2. Long as he throwing them bands, and I pity the fool. You calling her boo, she ain't gonna be holding your hand. Heard it's a party downtown, gather the crew. Everybody finna get cute. Ooh,
So as you can see by the title, today's video is going to be on my labor and delivery story, and to me it was traumatic. Other people may not find it traumatic, but bitch, you can't tell me what's traumatic or not to me. So yeah, it was traumatic, and for me it was bad enough to make me never want to do this shit again. So let me think about where to start. I probably should have thought about this before I started filming. Hold up, bitch. So I'm going to start with my last doctor's appointment. So the last doctor's appointment that I had while I was pregnant was on May 15th. I went there. When I went there, I was 39 weeks pregnant. Yeah, I was 39 weeks pregnant, and I was over it, looking forward to having my baby, everything like that. So they had told me at the appointment before that one that if the baby still wasn't there by the time I had the appointment at 39 weeks, they would do a membrane stripping. So when I went to the doctor's, that's exactly what she did. She seen that I was only 1 centimeter dilated, and she did the membrane stripping, which that in itself hurt like a bitch. She damn near fisted me. She put her whole fist up my vagina and her hand up there and just started swirling around inside my cervix, bitch. That shit hurt. So right after that, when I left the appointment, I told my boyfriend, I was like, yo, my stomach feels weird right now. Like, it's cramping. It feels like a type of cramp that I haven't had this whole pregnancy. He was like, oh yeah, it's probably working. And my mom was like, I don't know. It says online that you're going to feel some cramping after the membrane stripping anyway. So I'm like, true. But it still just felt different. So I was like, I don't know. We're going to fast forward to the next day. I was still going to work. I worked all the way up until I started going into labor. So I went to work the next day. I believe it was a Thursday. Yeah, I went to work the next day, which was on a Thursday. And while I'm at work, I start feeling contractions, bitch. They wasn't bad, but it felt literally like your stomach is tightening. And then you just like, ooh. And then it'll just release. So I'm like, damn, bitch, I feel contractions. And I was like, is this how they gonna be? Because if it is, bitch, this is cake.
stupid.
So I was like, okay, this ain't too bad. This ain't too bad at all. I felt it. I was telling my mom. She was like, uh-oh, it might be happening. You might be having to go to the hospital today, bitch. You might be having to go. So I'm like, yeah, I might have to go to the hospital. I'm like, whatever. I knew it wasn't the Braxton Hicks, because with my Braxton Hicks, I just felt a lot of pressure. That's all I would feel. But this actually felt like a pain. It was like a cramp, but at the same time, like, tighten it up. But at this point, it wasn't bad at all. I was like, I can deal with this. So the day goes on. I'm still having contractions. I'm like, I ain't no pussy. I'm not going home. Like, it's not that bad. I'm just stay here, bitch, until like the end of the day. Like, it was around probably like 3:30. I got off at 5. It was probably like 3:30 when I was like, oh, this ain't a joke. They get worse. Like, I don't know why I was saying it was gonna stay like that. I'm like, oh shit, this ain't a joke. It's really getting worse. I felt one, and it was a pain so bad it just made me stop in my tracks. I had to log out of the phone system, out of my computer and everything. And I was like, oh shit, this is crazy. Those small contractions are still happening throughout the whole day, even after I get home. But I already had in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is happening soon. Now, mind y'all, let's rewind. Everybody predicted, my mom, my stepdad. Well, my stepdad said that he thinks the baby's gonna come on the weekend, which would have been the weekend that I actually had him. He's like, that baby's gonna come on the weekend. And my mom said the 17th. And the 17th was a Friday. And my boyfriend agreed. He was like, yeah, it's gonna come on Friday. So Friday came, right, bitch. And then this is when I knew I fucked up.
It was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
Those contractions, bitch, those contractions are the ones that'll bring you down to your knees. Like, I was down on the floor crying, like hysterically crying. Like, it was the worst pain I've ever felt. So I thought. So I thought that was the worst pain that I ever felt. At that moment, it was the worst pain I ever felt. So I called the doctor's number and I'm like, okay, I'm having contractions. They hurt bad. At this point, it wasn't close enough though. They were like, the contractions have to be where you can barely talk, you can barely breathe, you can barely walk or do anything, and they have to be 5 to 7 minutes apart. So you need to start timing them. And at this point, they were coming so irregular. It wasn't at all 5 to 7 minutes apart. So the day goes by. My boyfriend comes over, keeps me company. That I called like 2 times within that time, and both times they said no, I couldn't come into the hospital. My mom and brother and everything is they're comforting me while I'm having these contractions, which I'm literally in tears with each contraction. You're trying to speed it up because I'm like, bitch, we need to speed this up. I'm ready to have this baby. And so before my boyfriend left, he had me walk up and down the steps, and those were making the contractions come, and they were seeming to come every 5 or 6 minutes, and they were lasting for like a minute and 30 seconds. But then it started to slow down again. They started to become even more irregular, and it was coming like every 8 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 6 minutes, 7 minutes. So I called back, and they told me, no, you don't come in until it's 5 to 7 minutes consistently. So every time they said that, I would just like go into tears because I'm like, no, I need to go to the hospital. I need this epidural, bitch. I need the epidural. So yeah, like I said, my boyfriend leaves, everything like that. I'm still at home. I'm in my room trying to lay down, and meanwhile my mom and brother are still timing my contractions. It was this app. It was a contraction timer app, and they're still down there timing it. They can hear me all the way from in my room because I like start to scream every time there's a fucking contraction. So it's 9:00 p.m. on Friday the 17th, which is the day that they predicted that the baby would come. And my mom comes upstairs. She's like, hold on, China, I've been timing it. We still been timing it downstairs. And no, they're coming every 5 to 7 minutes. Some is coming 5 minutes, but then they're coming anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes. And that's when they said to call. So she's like, just call back one last time. So I called again. And while I'm on the phone with the latest time, I start having a contraction. And I guess she sees how long it lasts and everything like that. And then I'm on the phone with her, and I have another one within that time period. And so she's just sitting there quiet, and she's like, yeah, you need to pack your bag and come to the hospital. And I was like, okay. Bitch, I was hype. I'm like, finally, I'm about to go get this epidural. Everything's gonna be smooth. This is gonna be cake.
Stupid.
So I call my boyfriend. He comes and picks me up in my car, and then it was my mom, my brother, and my little sister. They all get into my brother's car, and we head to the hospital. This hospital is about 15 minutes away. This whole time I'm in the car in the passenger seat losing it, like because the shit hurts so bad. And so we finally get into the hospital. I'm having contractions walking into the hospital, so my boyfriend puts me in a wheelchair. They were expecting me already, so they took me back to the room. And first they were thinking it could just be that I'm dehydrated or some shit like that. And I'm like, no, bitch, these are contractions. This ain't no fucking dehydration. But yeah, the doctor, he had came in and he had confirmed that I am 5 to 6 centimeters dilated. And they said, okay, we can start talking about this epidural. And I'm like, now we're talking. Now we're talking. This is what I want to talk about right now, the epidural. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting this epidural. It's going to take about 5 minutes for me to put it in my bag. It's going to be cake.
Stupid.
So they come in and they get ready to do the epidural. At this point, it could only, my mom and brother were still trying to find somewhere to park, and I believe it could only been, it was like one person back there with me at the time, and it was my boyfriend. And they come in with the stuff to the epidural. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm hyped, whatever. Bitch, tell me why they couldn't get the epidural in. They literally tried 4 different times to get the epidural in for Literally, it was over 45 minutes. It was like an hour. They were trying to get the epidural in my back and they could not get it. They said that when they were putting the needle in there, it was hitting a bone or something like that. And I felt so defeated at that point because the way the contractions were feeling, it was like, I was like, I can't do this without the epidural. I'm not playing. Like, I couldn't do it. And so, yes, I called my mom. At that point, they were waiting on their time and they went and took my sister back home. So they were on their way back to the hospital and I told them, I said, do not touch me again. I was like, I want to wait until my mom comes to see what she has to say, because I ask my mom everything. I don't care what you have to say about it. I always ask my mom for help. And so my boyfriend's calling my mom and like, oh, she needs you. We don't know what to do. And we don't want to do anything or make any decisions until you get here. So fast forward, my mom finally gets there and they kind of made me feel a little bit bad for trying to wait on my mom. But I'm like, bitch, I don't care. Because they're looking at me after I say like, oh yeah, I'm waiting on my mom. They're like, okay, so what do you want to do? I'm like, wait on my mom? Like, and they're like, okay, well, when your mom comes, then just let us know. We'll come back in the room. And I was like, all right, don't care. My mom finally comes and she sees I'm sitting on this bouncy ball. They gave me this bouncy ball, a ball that helps bring labor on or something like that. Whatever, they told me to bounce on it. I was bouncing on it and I had the hospital gown on and my back was out. She came in the room and she was just like, is all this blood from them trying to get the epidural in? And I'm like, yeah. There's blood running like all down my back into my butt crack, everything like that. At the same time, I'm having contractions. My mom had to help me go to the bathroom. My boyfriend had to help me a few times because I didn't feel like I could make it at all by myself. And there's just blood running all down my back, everything like that. And so my mom is like, okay, we're gonna pray about it. And then just let them try one more time since you don't feel like you could do it without it. My mom prayed about it and tell me why they came back in and they got it on the first try. The epidural was in and I was hyped. And I'm completely forgetting that they could not get the IV in my hand at first. Yo, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that when I first got to the hospital, they could not get the IV in my hand to save their life. I hate needles. First of all, I hate needles. And they came in, it was two different nurses. They both tried to get the IV in my hand. They both tried to get the IV in this hand and then they couldn't get it in that one, so they tried this hand. Oh, your veins are so little, blah blah blah. They couldn't get it. And my mom was like, no offense, but can y'all get somebody who knows what they're doing so that she don't have to keep going through this? And then they finally got the same man who was trying to put the epidural on my back. He got the IV in on like his first try. It took him a little bit, but he got it in. But yeah, that was before the epidural situation. Then the epidural situation happened and finally got the epidural in. They took me to another room and then they hooked the IV up and they hooked everything up, got the epidural gone, and we was rolling. Everything was cool. He said with each contraction now you're gonna feel less and less pain, and that's what happened. I could not feel nothing. The epidural's in, and because of the epidural, it slowed down my heart rate a lot. It slowed down my heart rate a lot. And so since my heart rate was slowing down, the baby's heart rate was slowing down. And let me tell you, it was the scariest thing because they had his heartbeat playing out loud the whole time, and then I just heard that shit get slow, went from ba-boom, 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 ba-boom to ba-boom, ba-boom. So I had to do all this different stuff. They had me flip over, get on all fours, put an oxygen mask on. Then they had me turn to the side and turn back normal and keep flipping until his heart rate went back up. I think it started going back up really though because mine did, because I was nervous. It's like, oh wait, now your heart rate is up. Are you nervous? And I'm like, bitch, yeah, my baby is damn near about to die. Of course I'm nervous. Yeah, the heart rate was finally steady and they're like, okay, now it's time for you to get some sleep. You're about to be pushing in a few hours. So you need all the energy you can get. And I'm like, okay, which, bitch, I don't know how I'm supposed to sleep with them coming in the room every 30 minutes. The doctor came in again. They wanted to see how far along I was. This time it was a female doctor. She checked and I was still at 6 centimeters dilated. At this point, it had been hours and I was still at 6 centimeters dilated. So they had to induce me. Bitch. I was fine. As soon as they gave me the first dosage of whatever they give you to induce your labor or whatever, I felt pressure for the contractions. I would feel pressure like at that point I could feel when the contraction was coming. Before, I couldn't feel nothing. I just did not feel nothing when the contraction was coming. I did not feel a thing. But then when they gave me the first dosage, that's when I felt the pressure. I'm like, okay, it's still bearable. It's not bad at all. Like it doesn't hurt or anything like that. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And then they said they were going to keep coming back, I believe, every 30 minutes to give me another dose if I wasn't dilated. So that's what they did. They gave me another dose. And that's the dose that took me out the game. That's when I started feeling pressure like in my butt area. I started feeling it in my butt area. It just felt like I had to poop really bad. So at the point when it felt like I had to poop, that's when I pressed the little button for the nurse to come back in. I'm like, hey, is it okay if I go poop? I have to poop like really bad. And they're like, oh no, that's the baby's head that you're feeling. You don't have to poop. Please don't push, because if you do, it could, I think they said it can mess something up with him if I'm pushing too early before my cervix is completely ready. So I just had to sit there and I just had to take it. And so I was trying to clench my butt cheeks together and everything like that. And it was just so painful. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point I was screaming like every 5 minutes. And then my contractions were lasting for so long, literally like 2 minutes. So it was just the most agonizing, horrible, painful thing I've ever felt in my life. Even with the epidural, that shit hurt so bad. And they were like, what you're feeling right now isn't even pain, it's just pressure. Bitch, the pressure was hurting. So I felt pain and I felt pressure. And so finally the doctor came back in. They're like, okay, since you're in so much pain and we see that your contractions are super bad, because you know they could see it on the monitor. They're like, let's see how far along you are dilated now. So they check again and they're like, oh wow, you're 8 to 9 centimeters dilated, so you're about to be ready to push any second. And I'm like, finally ready to push. Everybody was all excited. Everybody in the room, it was me, my boyfriend, my mom, and my brother in the room. My poor brother had to turn his head every time because I kept accidentally flashing everybody in the room. But he eventually left the room because it was too much. The whole time I'm squeezing my poor boyfriend's hand, breaking his fingers off. I was breaking my mom's fingers too. Until it was time to push. It was probably like 20 minutes later that it was time for me to push. So the pushing, it went normal. Nobody tells you. I thought that when you got the epidural you couldn't feel shit, but bitch, you know, you feel that baby coming out of your vagina. You literally feel it. So it was, I'm pushing, and of course finally the baby comes out. The pushing wasn't even that painful, it was just more uncomfortable, like when his head is stuck right there and you feel it. The part that was painful was when the doctors put their fingers in there and be like trying to help you get it out. That shit hurt. And then he finally came out. And but I felt myself rip because I felt like a burn, but at that point it wasn't even that bad. I didn't know how bad the tear was or anything like that. So he's out, I'm happy, everything like that. You'll see the footage once I insert it. So then they're like, oh, sorry, you tore a little bit, so we're gonna have to stitch you up. And I'm like, bitch, stitch who up? Stitch what up? What's being stitched? So that part wasn't even that bad, because I guess all that other stuff that had just went on, that wasn't even that bad. They just put the needles in there to numb it and they were stitching it up. But just seeing like the thread, like it just it messes with my mind. And I felt like when they be pulling the thread, I felt it. I'm like, this is my vagina that they're doing this with. So they stitched me up, and pretty much that's it. And I felt good that first day. The first day I felt fine. I was on all types of pain medications, everything like that. The second day I was in a little bit of pain, but it really, it really wasn't that bad. I just kept taking the pain pills. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days and then I was able to go home. So yeah, I had him on May 18th at 11:22 a.m. and he was so beautiful. That's that. But now fast forward, I bust a stitch. Y'all, and it's been like that for like two weeks, because I've been feeling when I would pee, when the pee would hit a certain area, it'd start to burn, but it wasn't that bad, so I didn't think anything of it until I finally looked just the other day. I looked and I seen like a gaping hole. Not even a hole, but it just looked, it's like a cut, and I'm like, yo, I think I bust a stitch. So I just had a doctor's appointment today, and yes, that's what happened. Thankfully, the flesh underneath was already healed. It's just the outside area that just needs to heal. It's gonna, I guess, heal like a normal cut or something like that. I don't know. But I'm like, why can't I just heal normally? So yeah, that's basically the end of that. I love my baby. I wouldn't trade him for the world. I would go through it all over again for him. And yeah, that's basically the end. Like I said, for me, it was traumatic. I'm never doing it again. I'm never having another kid. I know people say, oh, everybody says that, but no, bitch, I'm serious. I'm never having another kid again. All right, y'all, sorry if the story was all over the place. I didn't sit down and think about it before I started telling the story. I just like went with it. So yeah, but yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up. Smack the out of your screen right where that subscribe button is, and you might as well hit the notification bell, because you already know I'm gonna be right back at it like a crack addict. But before you go, be sure to check the description box below, because all of my social media accounts will be listed down in there for y'all, and you can, you know, give me a follow. Adios.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Hi, honey.
Having to take off the bottom part, you should just be able to fold it down and have it come off.
Look at him.
See how this is like the edge of the hormonal remnants, the purplish stuff? So I would maybe travel a little more.
China, I've got a bracelet for you since you have a baby boy.
Okay.
And then does Daddy get the second bracelet?
Yeah.
Gonna look at the numbers on your bracelet or his and match them up to baby's every single time, okay? And he's got a little tracking bracelet on the other ankle.
He was 7 pounds, 12 ounces, right?
We're gonna write all that stuff down for you too.
Did anyone get the time or?
Yes, we have the time.
It's on your bracelet.
I think it was 22 after.
Yeah.
22 inches.
22 after.
Oh, inches, yeah.
11:22.
Hey, Stinky. Hey, Stinky. He's so cute.